where it involved not that lot of money, you know. It simply involved the waiver of duties, import duties, for a villa, where the then Minister of Tourism had gotten these duties waived. And the court made it clear, look, that if you're going to waive these duties, you have to waive it in accordance with settled procedure. And of course, that the minister could not sit in on the deliberations. So I want that lady, I want Ms. Motley to come and tell me exactly what the position was. Before Thursday, before tomorrow, they're going to come out tonight. If she came there now and stood up and said, Carrington, they want to explain it, I would ask permission for her to come and address us. She has to explain it. It has to be explained. If she does not explain that, you're sending the wrong message to our young people, that there are those people in high places who can do as they like and don't give a damn about us. And I will not accept that. The Democratic Labour Party will not accept that. We have put too much into building this country. Look, we spent the last 10 years in the most trying circumstances, ensuring that we were able to deliver on some of the goods of this country. In spite of all the trying circumstances, we ensured that you continue to enjoy the kind of things to which you are accustomed. And I'm saying, we are not prepared to sit back and let anybody who born with whatever kind of spoon they're born, whoever born where they're born, I don't care where they live. We are not prepared to sit back and let them destroy that. We are saying, in our eyes, all Barbadians are equal. Look, I don't go up this thing called class, you know. If you listen to me, I don't talk about any upper class, middle class, and lower class. I would accept that they got people that make more money than you, so there's an upper income, middle income, and lower income. The problem with class is that it seems to me that you are judging people. I don't know what class I would belong to. I don't know, but I don't know. It confuses me. I am saying each man and woman deserves respect, irrespective of their birth, irrespective of their money and so on, because they're human beings. And we as a Democratic Labour Party will insist. And we still believe in a country. And it has always been our underlying philosophy. That's why I joined. We still believe in a country where no matter your circumstances, once you're willing to work hard and give an honest day's work and so on with perseverance, you can progress so that you can look forward to your generation, your children being better than you were. And that is our dream for Barbados. That is what we believe in. And we ain't doing it by carrying the government money and avoiding taxes. That's not how we're doing it. And then you got the gall to. You got the gall to, and at the point, before I say something I wouldn't say. You got the gall to tell me, oh, he was the Attorney General of Bermuda, and he was the president of the Court of Appeal of somewhere, and he was a member of this Court of Appeal and so on. He was the Queen's Counsel. And I say to you, if he is all this paragon of virtue, why the hell did he pay the taxes in the first place when they become Jew? It's as simple as that. So come out and explain how whatever get waived, and then we could go far from there. But there's more, you see. This lady has been going around asking us to elect her as the Prime Minister. Now, we don't elect Prime Ministers in Barbados. What we do, we elect 30 people, and then those people decide who they want to be Prime Minister. That has happened, and we know when elections are called and finished, we know who will be Prime Minister of Barbados, the Right Honourable from this court. It can't be another way, because he's demonstrated that he has the goods, he has the capacity to lead. It's plain and simple as that. I am not sure if that lady will get a chance to even get in the house. Because it got to be the house of the Prime Minister. And see that fellow Patrick out there? I expect Patrick to take her out. Because Patrick Todd has the goods, he's tenacious, and he is a good and honest and hard-working man. And when you go up and show the people of Bashar and so on what it is to be a gentleman and a hard worker, we will see. Now, we have been told. We were told about this Nigerian. I don't know, and you see, I am very concerned about this woman, because in addition to her being a despondency and so on, we have some serious problems as she becomes Prime Minister of this country. Everywhere mad enough to her. And I will share this one with you. We were told that she met with this Nigerian. Now, she didn't come out and say so, but he came out and said so. His lawyer came out and said so. They met to discuss something. I don't know anything about the man. I don't know what happened in that meeting, you see. But what I do know is this. I'm not bad talking anybody's country, but the fact is that internationally, Nigeria does not have a good reputation. The whole world looks at Nigeria, and they're suspicious of things like money laundering and that kind of thing. They're suspicious of people carrying all sorts of money, and I'm not talking about the little $100,000. I'm talking about millions. You can imagine what it will mean to our international business sector. Our international business sector, which is very sensitive. That is why things like FATCA and so on came into being. That is why when you can't deposit certain sums in the bank without you sign a certificate, say where they come from. You can imagine what it would mean to our international business sector. How sensitive that, given how sensitive it is. If they're able to point and say, look, the Prime Minister of Barbados has some dealings with a Nigerian, I just throw it out to you for you to think about it. That has me scared, and I am not going there. But I tell you, I want to say a bit to the youth. And it will continue. The Democratic Labour Party, we didn't come with any fancy youth manifesto or anything like that. But we say to you, and I say to you, that the next 50 years are really is about what we will leave for our youth. What are we going to do for them? And we set out some plans in our manifesto. But we didn't just start there. If you look at education, we've just built out the nursery level education. We worked with the Maria Holder Trust. Thank you. We worked with the Maria Holder Trust. They built some schools. We decided that we will foot the bill for the resources, pay the teachers and so on, just to ensure that every child of nursery school age would benefit. And then when you look at the manifesto, you will see, and my colleague Hendy referred to it just now. When you look at the manifesto, you will see some programs which are geared towards ensuring that we put our youth on the right path. And I thought they were so impressive that I thought that I had to draw it to your attention. You see, because there are people who would want to say that, of course, the manifesto don't say anything. You will hear that. Because there are people who feel that unless you talk about fancy figures, unless you talk about dollars and cents and so on, you're not saying anything. But I remind you that it was our dear departed leader, David Thompson, who pointed out to you that Barbados was more than an economy. It was about a society as well. And that is why we feel we have to invest in our youth. So you will check to see that we aim for nothing short of a second education revolution, which by 2025 will see the following. I'll just read a couple of them. 90% of students leaving the school system with some form of certification. 90% of all primary school students taking the 11 plus will achieve grades of 60 or higher, 60% or higher on maths and English, and it goes on and on and on. We have provisions to open, to extend the Samuel Jackman Prescott Polytechnic. No, it's a different name. The Samuel Jackman Prescott Technical Institute. They're opening another campus in St. Lucie and one in St. Philip, you see. But I also want to say to the youth of St. Michael West that there's also more in store for you. I have already approached the government. You see, the fish market, not fish market, the market, Eagle Hall Market. If you walk through there on any day, it is not fully used. You can run anybody through there and so on. Because it really has never taken off to fulfill its purpose. I have already made proposals to the government to repurpose the market and turn it into a center of entrepreneurship for the young people of this constituent Barbados. You see, one of the, and I'm not talking about any little shop and little things like what are upstairs now. I am talking about two-story and a fancy mall, something like the Dome Mall, something like Kensington Mall. Because one of the biggest problems that young people face when it comes to starting a business is the rent. And I feel that if we can give them proper facilities, air conditioning and so on, and if we could subsidize it, that they have a good chance of making it big. You see how we deal with the cultural industries? You see how we produce Rihanna and we're producing other people? We can produce some of the best businessmen here, so too, at that corner. And by the way, the government has already made proposals to acquire the land just by the L shape there at the corner to ensure that no big businessman come and gobble it up, but to ensure that it remains possible for the small man to get it. So, ladies and gentlemen, more things are in store for you. This place will be filled out, and it will benefit our youth. I want simply to say, as I leave you, look, you see what you have gotten in the Democratic Labour Party. You see how we have worked over the last 10 years? And you see now how we have come and we have presented to you a well thought out document called the Manifesto. And yes, there were some things that we had to do that you didn't think we should do or that you think caused you some pain. But even those things were well thought out. You see, we had to reduce government. We had to try and reduce government expenditure, and we also need money. When we talk about needing more money, ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome to the stage the Right Honourable Prime Minister of Barbados. And also Minister Sinkler, the member, the candidate for St. Michael Northwest or neighbor. Two heavy rollers, two of the many heavy rollers we have in the Democratic Labour Party. That is why the Barbados Labour Party can't handle us. You can tell them I say so. So, but why you don't leave me there? So, we have rolled out our plan. It is well thought out. And all I say to you is that keep the faith. We have done too much. We have gone too far to turn back now. So I implore you to be strong, stand firm, and come May 24th, do the thing. Vote for the Democratic Labour Party, vote for the candidate of your choice. And if you give us all 30 seats, we will take them, and you have nothing to worry about. Ladies and gentlemen, good night, I thank you.
Listen to what I say. Stick with Michael Carrington and vote DLP all the way. It is important when you reach the voting booth, you cast your X to safeguard the future of the youth.
Ladies and gentlemen, the next speaker is someone who is criticized at all lengths, all corners, all nooks and crannies for not talking, for his looks. But you know something? You can't take away the decency from the man. And that is the Right Honorable Frandell Stewart, QC, MP, candidate for St. Michael South.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much, the good people of the constituency of St. Michael West. Thank you, family of the Democratic Labour Party, before whom I feel especially honored and pleased to stand tonight, not only to support the candidacy of Michael Carrington, but also to promote the platform of the Democratic Labour Party. And we have gone through a very educational campaign because the Barbados Labour Party has introduced the public of this island to its new vocabulary of absurdity in politics, while the Democratic Labour Party has constructively, has thoughtfully and creatively charted a course for the future development of Barbados. And I felt I had to be here in Eagle Hall tonight because you have some important choices to make in Barbados. You certainly have an important choice to make here in St. Michael West between the candidate of the Democratic Labour Party, from whom you just heard, Mr. Michael Carrington, and the candidate for the Barbados Labour Party, who represented this constituency between the year 1999 and the year 2008. So he brings no surprises with him. Everybody in St. Michael West already knows that he's as shallow as a lunch plate. There's nothing new to him. If the people of St. Michael West did not know that, they would have thought that they had made a mistake in 2008 and would have voted for him in 2013. But because they know he brings nothing new to the political agenda, they re-elected Michael Carrington, as they will do again on the 24th of May, and will banish the Reverend Joseph Atherley. He's bishop now? Wow. I didn't even know that. Wow. As the old people in Barbados would put it, you don't say. Well, Lord, wow. No, he's Bishop. Bishop Joseph Atherley. All right. But whether Reverend or Bishop, and I take your word that he is Bishop, he will be banished to the limbo of forgotten things, and the people of St. Michael West will get on with their lives. You have heard over and over again all that the Democratic Labour Party has done against sometimes daunting odds over the last 10 years. And you now have in your possession the manifesto of the Democratic Labour Party, which does not just contemplate what will happen between 2018 and 2023, but which looks ahead to the next 50 years of independence of Barbados and charts a course, envisions a future that includes all Barbadians, that engages all Barbadians, and that rewards or benefits all Barbadians. And over the next 5 years, of course, as you have heard from this platform, as a result of a collaborative relationship between the government, the private sector, and the labor movement, a sustainable recovery plan was agreed and signed on to by the social partners of Barbados to determine what steps the government will take and the country will take to effect and bring to fruition that sustainable recovery. So there are no secrets anymore. You've also been made aware of what the Barbados Labour Party plans for Barbados. Now, everybody has heard of all of these grand projections and these grand promises being made by the Barbados Labour Party in its manifesto. I have not heard one of the very talkative, not one of the very talkative community of economists we have in Barbados come out and unequivocally endorse the manifesto of the Barbados Labour Party so far as its economic program is concerned. I know that a very credible economist in Barbados has come out and given the thumbs up to the manifesto of the Democratic Labour Party. But not one of the economists around here who were talking day in and day out over the last 5 years has been able to come out and to say that what the Barbados Labour Party is projecting for Barbados makes any sense. And there is good reason why no thinking economist can do that. Just over a year ago, the government of Barbados replaced the Prime Minister's car. The car that was replaced was 8 years old and giving trouble. And the government, as it has to do, replaced the car. All hell broke loose in Barbados because the Barbados Labour Party and their surrogates and co-conspirators and accessories before, during, and after the fact in the media, all hell broke. They all came out and said that the government could not afford at this time to replace the car. Now, a government that can't afford to replace the car can afford to abolish the National Social Responsibility Levy. A government that can afford to buy a car can afford to give a dizzying increase to non-contributory pensioners. A government that can't even afford to buy a car can afford to abolish road tax, can afford to reduce VAT, can afford to pay the fees of students going to the university in their totality, can buy buses immediately, can't replace the car but can buy buses. Can't replace the car but can buy sanitation trucks. That is the extent of the credibility or the lack of credibility of the Barbados Labour Party and its manifesto. A liar has to have good memory. And because the liars in the Barbados Labour Party forgot that they were saying that the government was so badly off that it could not even afford to replace a car, they've come to the country now with this laundry list of expenditure intentions, hoping that Barbados will willingly accept and consume them. Fortunately for the country, we have educated Barbadians who know better, who can analyze and evaluate what is put before them, and who have laughed the Barbados Labour Party's manifesto out of court. And they're now running all across the country, quite frankly, hiding from their own manifesto. Because they had nothing to launch that was credible, they were trying to access our manifesto so they could get a chance to launch that. But even that, they did so clumsily that they launched the wrong version of the DLP's manifesto. And every scurvy trick, every base initiative has been pursued in this campaign in order to destabilize the Democratic Labour Party and to try to secure the government of Barbados at the next election. Now, I want to say this. It is commonly said, and I don't disagree, that I don't talk enough. I think I've explained myself on that often enough that I don't have to do it over and over again. I have done a very simple calculus, and I know that the majority of voters in Barbados are women. And as I have said over and over again, I am yet to meet a woman in my life who likes a man that talks too much. Because you're never certain where you can talk. So I speak when it is absolutely necessary, and I speak about things that I think can add something to the sum total of human knowledge and enlightenment. I don't talk for talk's sake. In the same way that I encourage the country to conserve energy, I conserve energy at the personal level as well. But I have seen a few things unfolding in this campaign that, as Prime Minister of Barbados, are occasioning me some worry. Now, Barbados, in the year 2004, I believe it is, took the giant step of signing on to the Caribbean Court of Justice in both its original and its appellate jurisdiction. That means that not only have we signed on to that court in respect of its being able to determine how the treaty, the revised Treaty of Chaguaramas, should be interpreted at any given point of time, but we delinked from the Judicial Committee of the Privy Council in London And we decided that we would have our criminal and civil cases to go to a regional court, the Caribbean Court of Justice, if litigants are dissatisfied with what the Court of Appeal here of Barbados decides. And ever since we have done that, even when I was in opposition and sitting in the Senate of Barbados, I was advocating that all of the countries of the Caribbean, all of the countries of the English-speaking Caribbean, and in one case of the French-speaking Caribbean as well, Haiti, should sign on to the Caribbean Court of Justice. I've done that. As recently as the last CARICOM summit I attended in Haiti, I expressed myself very strongly on that issue. Recently in Parliament, before Parliament was dissolved, a few months before Parliament was dissolved, I had occasion, and the newspapers carried the report, to express my concern that judgments coming out of that court had a kind of slant that I thought was not reflecting positively on Barbados, and was giving the impression, these judgments were giving the impression, that Barbados is perhaps the most inefficient and bungling country in the Caribbean. Now, I made it very clear that when I compared decisions coming out of the Judicial Committee of the Privy Council on the issue, for example, of delay in getting matters before the court, that the Judicial Committee was far more sympathetic and far less offensive in their comments in respect of the countries that still send cases there than is the regional court to which Barbados subscribes, and to which Barbados subscribed from day one in both of its jurisdictions. The reality in the Caribbean today, though, is that after about 14 years of existence, only 4 CARICOM countries, Barbados and Guyana at the original stage, and 2 others, Dominica and Belize, later, have signed on to that court. Jamaica has kept a very safe distance from it. Trinidad and Tobago has also kept a safe distance from it. Although the headquarters is there, Basdio Pandey came down here and signed the agreement when he was Prime Minister, agitated for the headquarters. The headquarters is in Port of Spain, and Trinidad and Tobago has refused to sign on to the court in its appellate jurisdiction, and they know why. And then you have some of the other countries, the Antigua and Barbuda, St. Vincent and the Grenadines. St. Vincent and the Grenadines actually had a referendum some time ago, and the people of that country voted in favor of staying with the Privy Council. Antigua and Barbuda, I did an interview in Belize trying to urge Antiguans to sign on to that court, but they would not have it and have not yet done so. Grenada has not done so, and I could go on and on and on. But what has been happening here in Barbados recently is that citizens from those countries have been coming here to Barbados, and we welcome them with open arms. And benefiting here in Barbados from the fact that we have signed on to that court in its appellate jurisdiction, while their own countries have refused to do so. And I continue to be concerned. I don't care, let me make it very clear, what decisions any court makes, because courts decide, pursue justice according to law. Sometimes they're right, sometimes they're wrong. Even the highest courts in England, the Judicial Committee of the Privy Council and the House of Lords, as it used to be in days of yore, but the Supreme Court as it is today, have had to reverse themselves sometimes. So I don't try to look for perfection in what judges do or do not do. But I continue to be concerned as Prime Minister of Barbados that the attitude of some of the persons sitting in Port of Spain to Barbados and to litigants and to the justice system in Barbados seems to be disrespectful. Seems to be disrespectful. And I cannot be leading a country that is being disrespected in that way. And recent events corroborate and support what I'm saying. Sweeping the floor, as it were, with lawyers from Barbados and with public officers from Barbados, as though they're come for nothing. I am unhappy about that. Now let me make this clear. In the year 2002, Barbados was celebrating its 36th anniversary of independence. And I asked the late Sir Roy Marshall to do the 36th anniversary independence lecture for me on behalf of the Democratic Labour Party. And that lecture was done at the Hugh Springer Auditorium of the Barbados Workers Union headquarters there at Solidarity House. I still have a copy of that lecture. The title of the lecture, from what I can recall, was Law and Its Enforcement in an Era of Indiscipline, Indifference, Inequity, and Insecurity. And he delivered a very erudite lecture that night, as was the one of Roy Marshall. We had a conversation after that lecture because of some things he said in the lecture. And one of the things he said to me was that he did not think that it was necessary for countries like Barbados and other countries in the Caribbean struggling to come out of the consequences of upwards of 300 years of colonialism to have two appellate courts. That Guyana, between 1970 and the year 2004, well, he and I were talking in 2002. CCJ had not yet been established. That Guyana was doing quite well and justice was being administered quite well in Guyana with only one appeal court. Now, I pondered Roy Marshall's words from the year 2002 until now. I want to say this. Barbados is not going back to the Privy Council because that we are not going backward. Life goes not backward nor tarries with yesterday, as Khalil Gibran says. So we ain't going backward. But I want to say this. once the Democratic Labour Party is re-elected to office, I am determined to put Barbados on the same level as every other CARICOM country by delinking from the Caribbean Court of Justice in its appellate jurisdiction. We went in first and we can come out first. That court has heard 2 cases for the year. 2 cases for the year. One from Barbados and one from Guyana. I want to make it very clear, I am not here tonight commenting on the decisions. I respect, I'm an officer of the court myself as a lawyer. I respect the decisions that courts make. When I have disagreed with them, I have appealed them. And that is what every lawyer should do, what every officer of the court should do. But I'm not going to have Barbados disrespected by any politicians wearing robes. It is not going to happen. And I spoke about this privately to the president of the Caribbean Court of Justice. I don't want to influence any decisions. I don't care what they decide. Here in Barbados, when as a lawyer I've gone into court, I have treated every judicial officer before whom I have appeared with natural respect. On one occasion, one officer disrespected me, and I didn't confront him in court. I went back to my office and wrote him a letter, and when he read it, he sent and called me very, very fast. And we had a conversation, and he and I became the best of friends until he retired from the bench. So I don't subscribe to disrespect. And I think that the attitude coming from Port of Spain leaves much to be desired in terms of how it's treating Barbados. And I am not going to have a situation where other countries in the Caribbean keep a safe distance from that court while Barbados supports it, and Barbadians are treated with the kind of disrespect that I see. And if I were saying this for the first time tonight, anybody would be free to claim that I was only saying it because of what has been going on with the Chief Electoral Officer of Barbados. But the fact that I talked about this in Parliament months ago and said that I was unhappy with the virtual slanders that were being hurled at Barbados through that court, nobody can question my bona fides or credibility on this issue. So just go to the polls and vote for the Democratic Labour Party on the 24th, and I am going to solve that problem. Read my lips. I am going to solve that problem. It is just not right. Just not right. And as I said, citizens from other parts of the Caribbean whose own countries are keeping a safe distance from out there, you come into Barbados, utilizing the Barbados justice system to achieve through the CCJ what they cannot achieve in their own countries. It is not going to happen. Not going to happen in Barbados. I am the watchman of Barbados' fundamental rights and freedoms, and I cannot fall asleep on the job so far as that is concerned. So once we get past the 24th, there's going to be no discussion, but I can't be persuaded on this because I know they can't change. I sat and talked to a public officer some time ago who told me that she attended a conference, and in one of the breaks she was sitting around a table with one of the judges who sit in that court. And the nasty, degrading things he said about Barbados upset her stomach. And when he inquired why she was saying nothing, and she broke voice, and he realized then that he was saying all these things in the presence of a Barbadian as well, he began then to change his tune. But I know that that is how he still feels about Barbados. So let me make it very clear. As far as I'm concerned, that issue is settled with me. I was in the forefront. There's no other CARICOM leader, not one, who was in the forefront of the advocacy of that court's cause to the same extent as Frontal Stewart. Not one. I tried to urge all of them to join. Sign on, we are regionalists. Let us decolonize our jurisprudence. I said all those things. But in the same way that judges make mistakes, prime ministers can make mistakes too. I no longer feel that way based on how I see Barbados being treated, Barbadian litigants and lawyers and so on being treated. And I am not in any forefront of any advocacy. In fact, I think that they're very sensible on reflection. I think the countries that have not signed on to it in its appellate jurisdiction are demonstrating common sense. Barbados signed on to it at the very beginning, because Barbados and Guyana started CARIFTA in 1965, which became CARICOM. So Barbados and Guyana have been natural leaders in this region in terms of the regional integration movement and getting the people of this region together. Errol Barrow and Forbes Burnham met in Barbados on the 4th of July 1965 and decided that a Caribbean Free Trade Area had to be established. And Barbados and Guyana were two of the 4 signatories, original signatories, to the Treaty of Chaguaramas. So Barbados's commitment to this region cannot be questioned. This region had one federation. And the only Prime Minister of the West Indies Federation came from Barbados. Nobody can question this region's commitment to regionalism, this country's commitment to regionalism. But we have to be treated with respect. And my view is that we are not being treated with respect. And I intend to bring an end to that. I can't bring an end to it tomorrow, or Monday, or Tuesday, or Wednesday, or Thursday, but I can bring an end to it after Thursday when the Democratic Labour Party is returned to office. I wanted to make that clear. As I said, I am not questioning any decision. I mean, I have my own views about the decisions that have been made, but I am not getting into that, because as a lawyer, there are appellate steps that you can follow, and judicial officers have been known to be wrong and to correct themselves in the fullness of time. But the attitude is what has been concerning me. And as I've said, I spoke to Sir Dennis Byron in private about this already years ago. About 3 years ago, I told him about my unhappiness with the way that court was relating to Barbados in terms of comments being made and the way our lawyers were being treated. I am on record in that connection, but enough is enough as far as I'm concerned. And as I said, I am the guardian of the fundamental rights and freedoms of the people of Barbados through its constitution, and whatever is done can be undone. And I am committed to that course of action. And I want to congratulate all the other countries of CARICOM that were wise enough and circumspect enough not to expose themselves to the same kind of disrespect that I see being directed at Barbados. So, ladies and gentlemen, as I said, we've been having a good campaign. I am confident that on the 24th of May, the Democratic Labour Party will be returned to office. I don't think that anybody in Barbados believes what the Barbados Labour Party has said in its manifesto. I know for a fact that based on our record, people in Barbados believe what we have said in ours. They have seen from the Stewart in the office of Prime Minister over the last 7 years and 7 months as the 7th Prime Minister. And they have seen the leader of the opposition party as opposition leader committed only to preaching the politics of distress, the politics of alarm, the politics of despondency, and now the politics of recklessness. And I know that when a choice has to be made between the politics of sober maturity and the politics of recklessness, that wise Barbadians, thinking Barbadians, will make the choice in favor of sober maturity, and that can be found in the Democratic Labour Party. So I'm not going to keep you too much longer. I know that Chris Sinclair has to come and address you as well, and the night is far spent, which Sunday is tomorrow, and some of you have to go to church. But I just want to invite you, or to exhort you rather, stand strong. Go on the 24th of May and do the thing. Vote for Michael Carrington and all of our Say Michael candidates. Vote for our candidates all across Barbados and ensure that the Democratic Labour Party is returned to office to continue the solid work which it has been able to do against stunning odds between 2008 and 2018. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Have a good night. God bless you. Thank you.
You got a choice between a donkey and a horse, yes, boy. Donkey and a thoroughbred. Well, you know, nothing good was supposed to come out the farm or Dickens Road. Nothing good. Because Chris' mother ain't a body, Chris' father was nobody, and Chris is not supposed to be anybody. But he went to Eagle Hall Infant School. You went to Wesley Hall, Chris? No. I know you can go to Wesley Hall. He can go to Wesley Hall, man. He went to the Garrison Secondary. He went to the University of the West Indies. Now, he don't talk about these things. He did a master's international business. Trade policy, thank you, Mr. Prime Minister. And he had the certificate. He had the certificate. He got it laminated. He got it laminated. He can bring it and show you. But more important than that, I have been to regional conferences when we were doing the Caribbean Single Market and Economy discussion across the region. Every country in the Caribbean would call and ask the policy director at the Policy Development Center there in Welsh, Mr. Christopher Sinclair, to travel to any island in the Caribbean and to explain to them the implications of the Caribbean single market economy. Chris was the expert in this region as far down as the tip of South America on explaining the Caribbean single market economy. I was in New York this year, and I was hustling to introduce the Prime Minister because I wanted to bring on that. And some BLP operatives got into the town hall meeting that the Prime Minister had organized, the government had organized. And a little nuisance got up and told the Prime Minister, in the unlikely, what's the word, Mr. Prime Minister? Unlikely event that the Democratic Labour Party wins the government, will you saddle Barbados with Chris Sinclair as Minister of Finance? That was a BLP operative there in a big red shirt at a town hall meeting organized by the government and people of Barbados, and 4 of them nuisances turned up in red shirts. And that was the question. Let me tell you something. I had never in my entire life seen Frondel Shore, I'm talking about Prime Minister, Frondel Shore get vexed. The fellow was talking and the Prime Minister was doing so, look. I ain't gonna tell you what. Listen, the fella left the room with his head between the tail. I mean blistering without using a single nasty word. Just put that little chooks in his place. Because Prime Minister recognizes, like all of us, that a weaker person, with among the criticisms that have been leveled at Chris, would have run and disappear. But boys from Deacons got balls. The men in the Democratic Labour Party have balls. We have more balls than me. Ladies and gentlemen, don't have me very sure, I sure. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Christopher Sinclair.
The DLP coming through now. Let the mother plug up the cocoon now. Yeah, your pen and set your position and put. We're singing and now walk your exam. We're singing and now take your exam. We're singing and now. And you can walk out along and let's try walk along and let's go. We're singing and now take your exam. We're singing and now walk your exam. We're singing and now. You can walk out along and let's try walk along.
Thank you very much, Comrade Chairman Derek Allen. Let me begin by correcting Derek on one point, which I feel he ought to know since he is such a long-standing member of the Black Rock community. Officially, in the notes of the Ministry of Education, it would say that I went to Eagle Hall Primary School. But Derek knows, as well as I do, that I went to Goodland. We used to call it Goodland, not the Eagle Hall Primary School. You went to Goodland Primary School. But I want to say a pleasant good night to all of you. And Derek is right. You know, they've said all manner of things about me, which I don't bother with because you know how these things go. And other implements too. That work. Look, they said all manner of things about me, including that everybody hates Chris. All over the internet, social media, parliament, whenever, they make me out to be the worst person in Barbados. But I don't mind, because as the Prime Minister said, always say, the truth is not like milk. It don't spoil. And I merely came into a campaign, produced a little soccer shirt, and everybody in Barbados want one. Now, if I am the most hated person in Barbados, would people be breaking down the door, trying to put on a shirt with my name at the back of it? Look, it was reported to me only this morning that 3 BLP women turned up at my office demanding to get these shirts. And when my staff and the others on it told them, but you all are bees, why you want this shirt? I thought when I hear Chris, one of them was her to say, don't mind them people talking foolishness there. We want one of these shirts to put on. But I couldn't believe it. People from all over Barbados, St. Lucie, St. Joseph, an old lady sent down her son from St. Andrew and said, bring 2 smalls, 2 mediums, and an extra large. And this thing, but I couldn't understand it. So I had them package it out, and I put in an extra small one for George Payne. Cause I know, no matter however he big up himself, he would fit in an extra small. Let me tell you tonight, that was one of the most pleasing presentations I have heard from the Prime Minister, and I've heard a lot of them, from the Prime Minister of Barbados tonight. Because there are a lot of people who believe that when Friend Stewart leaves Barbados, he just goes over to these conferences, sits down, and does not defend the honor of Barbados. But I know that that is not true, because in CARICOM circles, it is known that Friend Stewart is a fierce and fearless defender of Barbados. He's not ashamed to be a Barbadian, like Miss Motley. He is proud to be a Barbadian. And on all fundamental points, whether it is this issue of free movement of persons, which he always says he has no problem with, but has to be done in a manner consistent with the immigration laws of Barbados and the capacity of Barbados to sustain the movement of persons across borders. Or on the point of this citizenship, we call it, by investment programs, the Prime Minister always makes the point. In fact, he gives the story that while sitting on a plane, he took out a magazine to have a little read, one of these promotional magazines that the airlines have, only to discover that a CARICOM country, which was advertising its citizenship by investment program, this is the one where you sell the passports and citizenship to foreigners for some money. A topic which I understand might have been discussed at the Hilton. Well, if you multiply 400 Barbadian passports by 5 million a passport, you can get a very good idea of how much Nigerian money we will have down here. But Prime Minister gives that story, that somebody put in the magazine, come to my country, get citizenship by invitation, and that allows you almost free passage into Barbados. And the Prime Minister had to speak to his colleagues in very plain terms that this could not and will not be acceptable to Barbados. Because we don't have such a program here. We believe people should work for their citizenship. Just like we believe people should work for a vote. Because can you believe tonight, as I speak, there is a young lady living in Bridge Gap who is a Barbadian, nearly 30 years old, well educated up to master's level, working and paying taxes in Barbados, cannot be found on an electoral list in Barbados and may not be able to vote on the 24th. But a court sitting somewhere in Trinidad could determine that people who are so-called Commonwealth citizens can come into Barbados, and after 3 years, without appropriate counsel from the Immigration Department, which determines status of persons in Barbados, will be able to vote, and a Barbadian citizen cannot vote in their own elections. Now, something has to be fundamentally wrong with that policy. And if you look at the people who have been consistently behind pushing this thing, are all of these Labour Party lawyers, because they seem to have put together a collage of people who are living here at the privilege and pleasure of the hospitality of Barbadians, and we welcome them and their contribution to Barbados, that they can gather all of these votes onto themselves if they can get this thing past the courts and by the CCJ. Well, I want you Barbadians to understand something tonight. It is your solemn duty to ensure that no group of persons who come from outside of Barbados determine who the government of Barbados will be. You have a fiduciary responsibility to your children, your children's children, and to your country to ensure that that level of mischief does not pervade this Barbadian society. Barbados belongs to Barbadians first, and then any number can play after that. But the stakes in this election, as we come down to the final days, are extremely high. And I am concerned tonight, as I speak to you at this famous Eagle Hall spot, that we may very well be in the throes of a Trumpian moment. You know, you keep warning people. You have to be vigilant. You have to open your eyes. Donald Trump declared himself as a candidate in the election of the United States, presidential election. Slid down an escalator in the Trump Towers, and almost seconds after landing, delivered a speech which everybody in the United States declared as one of the most dastardly speeches ever delivered by a candidate in any election, far less a presidential election. He said Mexicans is crooks, thieves, robbers, rapists, all kinds of things. He cursed black people. He talked about everybody, on the women, everybody. And everybody expressed they're outraged at the speech. Most of them say, we're not taking Trump seriously. Fair enough. And Donald got away with that. He continued on. And at every turn, he said something more ridiculous each time he spoke. A lot of mumbling, lot of grumbling, lot of hands crossed the eyes, shame. And Donald decided, I can push it a little further. Primaries came up, and Donald Trump started to get people to vote for him. Even more emboldened, because he started winning primaries in the Republican primary season, he started to say even more outrageous things. He cursed judges, he cursed women. He even said, after he won a number of Republican caucuses and primaries, he said, look, when I realized that if I walk down Fifth Avenue in New York and shoot a man, that these people can still vote for me.
You sound like Marley. You sound like Marley.
Because Trump had realized that, man, look, these people want change. They want Hillary. So I could say anything and I would get away with it. I can concede what I am really about. So he then started to say he gonna lock up Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton, her husband, was so corrupt. Sounds familiar? Then he started to offer ridiculous policies like building a wall and making the Mexicans pay for it, which nobody believed. And he said he's going to do all these fancy things. And people believed it. It sounds familiar? Ridiculous policies, ridiculous statements, claiming that he could shoot somebody and nobody would matter or mind about it.
You like stupid people.
Make America great again while tearing down the very side of America. It sound familiar? He even said he was ashamed at the state of America after Obama went in the White House. Well, that had a double-edged sword to it, because he was saying that supposedly in relation to policy, but we know he was saying it because of race. Because Obama didn't come from nowhere, he and his wife. Come from down in the suburbs of Chicago.
Come from nowhere.
He was not American, according to Trump. And they're the two black to go in the White House. So, and as you know, Trump ordered carpenters, upholsters, and all that after he won the presidency to change out all the things and rearrange the White House. In fact, they say that he is so opposed to Obama's being in there that he don't even sleep in the bed. Anyway, I am making this point to you tonight because Donald Trump, smart fella that he is, decided he was going to target certain states in the United States. They got seemingly to get the Russians to hack into Hillary's emails, put out all these things about Hillary Clinton, targeted certain states, which he won by very narrow margins, 16,000. And you know, if you win a state like Michigan by 16,000, that is a real small amount when you're talking about millions of persons. So Donald Trump, on the night of the first Tuesday in November 2017, when all of us were gathered at TV, expecting that he would become the president, Donald Trump did what many never expected he would do. You know why? Because a lot of people who kept silent either went and vote for Trump, Democrats, or they stayed home and did not vote at all. Tonight, as I speak to you, we are in danger of having a Trumpian moment in Barbados. We know all of the things that are wrong about me and Motley. You don't need me or Friend Stewart or Derek Allen or Michael Carrington or Henry Williams or the Attorney General to come on in the platform and tell you. You know. Because you have observed her for the 20-somebody years she has been in politics. All we have done is to remind you of some of the things. Only some. Hey. But everybody in the quiet of their homes or their workplaces tell you, man, you know what the damn said about she is true. She do this, she do that, she ain't do this, she ain't do that. What the them say about their policies, the recklessness of them, the impossibility of them, the nonsense of them is true. But you know, she's a Motley and she born to be a prime minister, and you know, we might give she a chance. We don't like Frandel, he don't talk so much. He's a good man, he's a Christian, he don't make you shame. You ain't gonna worry when he travel if he can go and do some foolishness, you know? Like bite the wrong thing or something like that. But a Trumpian moment is possibly at hand in Barbados. But we know that on natural propensity, on policy correctness, on moral and ethical standards, there are more Democratic Labour Party supporters in Barbados than there are bees. And if the Dems come out and vote on May the 24th, there is absolutely no way that me and Motley can become the Prime Minister of Barbados. So I ask you tonight, are you going to allow a Trumpian moment to occur in Barbados? I can't hear you. Well, that means that the People's Army has to bond together to get out every single vote in every constituency for every Democratic Labour Party candidate. And I want you to start right here in St. Michael West. Look. There's a bishop running against the speaker. But I'm not going there. Bishop Joseph Atherley. You know me and Motley don't support him. She don't come around because she don't like it at all. But he has distinguished himself as being capable of elevating nothingness to an Olympic sport. I'm serious. He has elevated nothingness to an Olympic sport. You can actually play. That's how he has he has transformed nothingness. He has left nothing of consequence in his wake in this constituency of St. Michael West. And when matched against Michael Carrington, who is very quiet in his disposition, pleasant in his manner, and committed in his effort, has done in this constituency so much for people that he is deserving of being given a third term in Parliament, 3 straight times. So you have the manifestos, a responsible and irresponsible manifesto laced with promises from the Barbados Labour Party that the Prime Minister has rightly said that no self-respecting economist wants to be associated with. You can't hear nothing out of them now. They were all criticizing me and the Democratic Labour Party's policies, but you can't hear a peep out of them. Not a word. Where is who holder? Holder? Who's he? But you don't. They're talking about who are they talking about? You mean Van Holder? But Derek, get serious, man. Get serious. We don't deal with people that don't matter. Look, you can't hear Jeremy Stevens. Where he gone? Huh? Dlpbarbados? No, we don't want to hear him at all. But we can't hear Jeremy Stevens. He's off island. Where is he? All of them that had so much mouth criticizing the Democratic Labour Party's economic policy, now that the people have seen the wisdom of what we were doing and the madness that they are proposing, and so much so that they've run from their own manifesto. They're going to increase old age pensions, non-contributory, and break the NIS. She's going to eliminate NSRL, replace or restore tuition fees, change every flat roof in Barbados to gable, build 3 islands off Barbados and 2 marinas, build a new prison, abolish road tax. Look, this morning I went into my garage and I looked at my lawnmower and I support you. You ain't gonna do much work after now, call the taxing you too. They can tax you for using the road. Every little fellow with a weed whacker got to pay a road tax, tax on gasoline. Huh? It's so ridiculous. And then when you get the Democratic Labour Party's manifesto, which is a manifesto with sense put together to match the times that we are in. And so anxious were they to get a real manifesto, they tried to steal ours. Got the wrong one, but you know Jerome Walker said that it was delivered to him in a brown envelope. And typical of Jerome, he opened the envelope from the bottom first. I think I can drink to that. He opened the envelope from the bottom up. I'm talking about the Democratic Labour Party's manifesto. We had a plan. I was saying to say we have a plan. We did the National Social Responsibility Levy to protect the foreign reserves of Barbados. You know why business people don't like it? A lot of them, particularly the merchants, because they can't evade it. They got to pay down at the port. And that is why they don't like that. They can hide away with the VAT. They can beg off for excise tax. But they can't get away from NSRL. So that bothers them. But while we were asking people to bear a little bit more We were doing it to ensure that we stem the slide of the reserves, stabilize that, and then we can start working from there. We indicated that because we cannot go, not that we cannot, but we don't want to go to the capital markets to borrow. And let me tell you something about this reserve thing. Barbados has never really earned no big lot of reserves on its own, you know. We have always borrowed reserves. And again, a lot of the business people like that because they could go to China and buy everything from chewing gum to panties and bring back here, put a markup on it, and sell it to you. Because a lot of these people you hear talking, sweet tamarinds, yes. We got tamarind trees all about here. Nobody can pick the tamarinds no more. But they can bring tamarinds in a box that you gotta put in the fridge to keep. Right? A lot of these people don't produce anything. Right? But they want foreign exchange so they can go and shop. Fair enough, I don't have a problem with that. But between 1999 and 2007, the Barbados Labour Party government borrowed more than $2 billion Barbados in reserves, in foreign exchange, to prop up the reserves in Barbados. It was an earned reserves, and they said they were borrowing for a rainy day. When the crisis hit, Mia Motley delivered of herself a statement in Parliament that women are waiting on. Convert those reserves into Barbados dollars and put money in people's pocket so they could go downtown and shop. She said that. Another irresponsible thing. Luckily, the responsible people in the Democratic Labour Party don't listen to foolishness. Because she would say anything that she believes would make people feel good. We are not in the business just to make people feel good or to get popularity. We are in this business to do what is right for Barbados. And sometimes you have to take unpopular decisions. When you're running a household, if you got 4 persons in a household working, and the main breadwinner gets laid off or gets their week reduced from 5 days to 3, and less income is coming in, that breadwinner and his or her spouse, whether it's a woman or a man, have to say to the rest of the people in the house at the family meeting, less money is coming in, and therefore we either got to cut our expenditures, or the ones that are working, they got to contribute a little bit more to keep the house going. That is how it works. There's nothing fancy about it, and that's what we did. Less money coming in for international business, less money coming in for tourism, revenues down. We lost $1.8 billion in revenue over this period. It's not because of anything that we did, but because of things that happened outside. How do you manage that situation unless you ask people to take a little cut here and increase a little giving there, so that those who are vulnerable in our society can continue to exist and live in a state of dignity? And that is what we did. And I always make the point, it is better to ask a fella to give up 2 cents or 3 cents more of his dollar so that he can maintain the services that he's enjoying, like refuse collection and free school meals and so forth and so on, than to lay him off and he goes home and have nothing at all. So the Democratic Labour Party made a choice, and our choice was to increase some taxes and do some other things. It was not easy, it was not popular, but we did it for the country. And tonight, as I stand before you, Barbados is still strong. We are still standing. We are getting past the worst. But we cannot risk the situation of having reckless indifference and common, not indecency, but common ignorance in the proposals that they're putting forward to come and turn us back. You hear the song say, the People's Army is on the march. We ain't turning back now. We can't turn back now. We just cannot afford it. So we said, okay, we have an issue with the reserves. We will take a couple of our assets and we will sell those to bring in some immediate injection of foreign exchange and reserves. It is not intended as a cure-all, because it can't be a cure-all. But when you are in a tight situation, you take some critical decisions. Now people talking about Hilton, but if we sell the Hilton to a man or a woman or a company, where they can't take it up, put it in a briefcase, and go through the Adams Airport with it, it will always be here. If we sell the oil company, and let me tell you something about the terminal. That terminal was once in the hands of the private sector. It was not a government operation. The Barbados National Terminal Company. The private sector used to run that when Mobile was around here. They ran Mobile out of Barbados and then went and spent $148 million building a terminal. $148 million in debt. And then let me tell you what else they did. Because he's talking about economic management. They subsidized the use of fuel in Barbados. And when we came to office, the Barbados National Oil Company was in debt to $160 million Barbados dollars. And you're right, it was bankrupt. And the auditors were about to give a qualified opinion of it as a bankrupt company. We had to go, I believe, to Republic Bank and borrow a loan to keep that oil company going, and then pay it down. That is what they do. And talk about the Democratic Party's energy policy. So we say, move the two companies, get that foreign exchange, buy yourself some breathing space, float your reserves back up by about $5 million, and then we can get to work on some of the fundamentals to bring, like improving doing business and the ease of doing business, to bring more investment into Barbados and keep this thing ticking over and increasing as economic activity and growth improves. That's the Democratic Labour Party's plan. Right now, John Boyce and the Ministry of Health are putting the final touches on a national health insurance scheme to ensure that the public health facilities in Barbados, particularly the QEH, continues to function, and that Barbados can get free access to medical care in Barbados that is state-of-the-art and modern. And that will ensure that we can finance the QEH operations by at least $70 million a year. So we can make savings or cut that out of the expenditure because we will have a way to finance it. They talk about profiling debt. Look, we are well ahead of them. I signed off with the central bank for a company called New State Partners to come to Barbados, and they came and have done a comprehensive review of all of our debts and made proposals to the government. We are only waiting until we get back into office to get to work on that. So when they talk about reprofiling debt, we are leaps ahead of them. That's stale news. That news stale. So you can go down the line on our economic policy. Contain, retain and project by way of enhancement. That is what we are doing, and doing it in a responsible fashion. So they launch now, having not gotten the real manifesto going. She goes up. No. She gone up in the Radisson Hotel, and have a special launch of this youth manifesto, in which all the upper middle class youths that she could find anywhere bundle in. So they had two launches, one for the upper middle class at the Radisson, where they had croissants and smoked salmon and shrimp. No sausage. Shrimp. Listen to me. Shrimp. They had croissants with chocolate in them. They had smoked salmon, some wine. I understand some Dlpbarbados was served as well. Some champagne. And she sat down there like Queen Latifah. And she talking with a scarf, because everything now is a scarf. Barbados, hot as hell. And then she walking about with a scarf, and got that bewitched one Carrie Simmons walking about with a scarf too. You see with a scarf right around your neck, and they dangling down so. And I said, but look at this bullshit for me. He gone on until he dangling down so. And I said to myself, they are so motley eyes. Look, I know past a truck when they're coming down here up the road there. You know that we are 4 or 5 days from the election, and then still putting up billboards with me a Molly face on it. Big ignorant billboards all over the place, trying to turn this into some cult of personality. This motley. Everywhere you go, all you drive, and you close your eyes for the night to go sleep, all you see is this motley with this scarf wrapped around her neck. Now that is the sign of a very insecure and uncertain person. From this journey, got to put a big face in every constituency all over Barbados for people to know the quality of Francis Church. But here you have this political megalomaniac, and they send out notes to all the candidates. When you are speaking, remember, at the beginning, in the middle, and at the end, you must praise the leader. And one of the candidates right back in their private candidate chat, praise her for what though? I tell you who that is at the next meeting. All of them. And if this one thing you can say about Frandel, he don't want to body up on it. Telling you all the time, whispering in your ears, oh, you are so great. You're so special. Oh, this and that. But apparently, this is Molly. That is the kind of thing that you used to get from people like Stalin and Idi Amin, and Hitler, and now Trump, and Gary, and they people want you to tell every 5 minutes to tell you how great you are. Will be only sing down him when we go to church. Oh God, what is it? When in lost and wonder. Where Reverend Jordan? Am I here, buddy? Where you going? Where? Jordan's gone to sleep. Wake here. He there? Seriously? So they had 2 launches. One at Radisson for the middle class people, and they play to come down here having something out in Tweedside Road for a youth rally, which is obviously a last minute thing to climb together. And look, they had a youth rally promoting youth policies and bring 2 70-year-old men to perform, Gypsy and Gabby. And they told them down there peacocking. Imagine that. They rake up Gypsy from out of Trinidad and bring it down here to sing at a youth rally. And half of the young people had to ask, who is he? Would they never hear about it? Listen, folks, We got to get serious, man. We have serious work to do. The Labour Party is not about serious work. They are about fun and frivolity and palaver. We are about serious work. We have put a proper manifesto together. We have run a clean, responsible, and mature campaign. We have delivered, because you know when we put out our performance document, facts, progress on facts, you hear them saying, oh, but we know the government do so much. The government do so much. David Ellis on the radio, the government do so much. Why I know they do so much? Anyway, I don't mind made up. Because they cannot, in honesty, express the truth. And it is that no other administration faced with what we would have been faced with would have been able to do as much as we did in the 10 years that we were in government. Could you imagine what the Democratic Labour Party would have done if we had the money that the Labour Party had? You can imagine what we would have done with if we had the $100 million that them spent on Greenland, a dump that up to now cannot even get a toffee paper. Huh? Could you imagine what we would have done with the millions of dollars they spent on that judicial center? Where we should have been doing programs to rehabilitate the youth and make our justice system better. We were spending money to build a monument to David Simmons and Mayor Motley. And you saw the picture with her and the groundbreaking. You know that she's criticized Leroy Parks and said the worst things about him. And she, in the picture, standing up next to Parks, skinning she teeth. But she ain't gonna tell you that. She ain't gonna tell you she met with him too before the 2008 campaign. She ain't gonna tell you so. And when for campaign finance, because don't mind them, you know, they criticize people, say the worst things about them, and then get other people to call them and say, don't mind that, that's only politics. I want to meet with you. Come to dinner. That's how them is function. Huh? Could you imagine what we would have done with that money to improve the justice system in Barbados?
$26 million
huh?
in urban, $26 million.
$26 million in urban.
2006, 2007.
And all the money that they spent, which Jose, the company that the man claims she is so closely associated with, got all more than 50% of the road contracts down there, could not lay out a building in Crab Hill in St. Lucie.
Toilet paper.
Stuff toilet paper and snow cone cups and condom wrappers down in the thing when they should have had it reinforced concrete. That's what the consultants found, you know. And they put it to build a road, to build roads in Barbados. But I ain't got nothing against it. But I believe that if you are the best at hauling pup, keep the way you're good at. It takes a special skill to haul pup, you know. It's not an easy job. And if you're good at doing that, how could Miss Motley pick up a pup hauler and expect that he could build a road? And you got companies like Covalence and Rayside there, can't get work. Huh? We got to get serious. They spend a wash pan of money on a bathroom in Silver Sands with a golden shower. Look, when I was the Minister of Urban, Derek Allen can tell you, they hired a contractor or a company to do, because they can't call the person a contractor, to do work at Urban. And I went on a tour. We got a bus, and we toured. And I went into the house, one of the houses that they built, supposedly built. And I tell you this, tomorrow's Whit Sunday, it is no lie, before the face of the Almighty. It's today? Oh man, I didn't realize they're going so long. Happy Whit Sunday to all of you. I encourage you to go to church. If it is here, my man, you understand? Reverend Wood? No. But look, I went in the house, and this is no lie. The contractor built the house. Pretty. Yeah. You know when you turn on the bathroom sink, the toilet used to flush? It is a fact. I believe Carol Roberts was it was she firm? Or it was Cupid? One of them. And when you turn on the bathroom sink, it used to hear and the toilet bowl flush. Huh? Nobody want to hear it. All of that money wasted at urban and rural. Houses falling down, bad lumber. If we had that type of money in the Democratic Labour Party to spend, if we did so much with so little, could you imagine what we would do if we really had the resources to spend on you, the people of Barbados? So I'm saying to you tonight, your choice is clear.
Unequivocally so.
It is unequivocally clear. Brendan Stewart, the Democratic Labour Party team, we are the team to keep Barbados together. You have a responsibility to ensure that we don't experience a Trumpian moment in Barbados and that you wake up weeks after the election and say, oh my God, what have we done? Dems, get out, mobilize, pull them out, go to the polls, vote Dems morning, noon and night, and we will see you at the rendezvous of victory on the night of the 24th, 2018. Ladies and gentlemen, get home safely and may God bless all of you.
We voted for who? Plug into what? Mr. Give me the ball!